Jenkins?
Here.
DeMars?
Here.
Pardon?
Here.
Testori?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have one public comment this evening. Mr. Madden, Farmer City, you have the floor, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Madden. I'm one of the youth Sunday school teachers at the Farmer City Methodist Church, and I've got Cody Phillips and Raven confused with me, and we have a project that they've been working on. They're going to try to raise money for the Salt Creek Resource Center. We're not asking you guys for any money as a city. We're just asking for support as leaders of the city, and they want to tell you a little bit about our event.
Our Sunday school class has been talking about the role that we have as a church and as individuals when we see a need in our community or our world. As we talked about this, we began to look at our own area, and one of the things we noticed is that our town and the surrounding communities have a significant amount of low-income households. And many of those households struggle with food insecurity. They're not always sure where their next meal is going to come from.
So we decided to do something about that. During the month of April, we will be trying to raise $5,000 for the Salt Creek Resource Center Food Pantry. This is the local food pantry that also serves many of the surrounding towns. And our fundraiser is called the 5K Famine. And so at the end of the month of April 29th and 30th, we're going to do a 24-hour famine of eating no food so that we can kind of get a better feel of what that kind of hunger will feel like. And yeah.
Before we start our famine that morning, we're going to have a little fundraiser from 9 a.m. to 11, and it's going to be a breakfast on that Saturday the 29th, and we'll have a hash brown bar with lots of different types of hash browns and toppings like gravy and cheese and sauces and stuff like that. And the money we raise during that breakfast will go towards our goal.
$5,000 is a big goal. That's a lot of money. And so we are asking the city to support us and to spread the word and help donate to our cause. And there will be handouts with a code that you can scan with your phone that will take you to the secure donation page. And then you can also find more info on Facebook, or the church Facebook page, or you can call Michael Madden at 217-848-0342.
So this project, of course, the good thing is that we're trying to raise money for the local food pantry, but kind of another benefit that we have is the kids have been doing everything. There's been between about 10 and 13 kids. We have some of the youth from the Weedman United Methodist that are going to join us. They've been designing flyers. They wrote a press release. They've just learned a lot of new skills. So that's just kind of a bonus. And just as city leaders and just as adults in the community, the best we can do to support them and encourage them, we would appreciate that.
Does council have any questions?
I've already seen the post and shared it, and you're making the most money, Michael. I just want to say, you need to step it up.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome.
Well, I personally appreciate your efforts, and I share some of the same passions. So, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The next item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Was there any discussion? Go ahead and do the roll.
Jenkins?
Didn't you have a discussion didn't you have a question about some money? About a bill?
I had a question about the pump cost, but I'm not sure at this point it can be done much about since it's already done.
Do you want to wait till
Yeah, it's more
non-agenda
just-
items?
Yeah.
Very good roll call.
Jenkins?
Yes.
DeMars?
Yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There being no unfinished business, we move to section 3, new business.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 977 declaring 420 North John as a surplus property.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
As you folks know, we've been going around and trying to take care of some of the dilapidated properties in town. We generally can only do one at a time. 420 North John is the blue-gray house across from the school. Technically now it is ours. I believe we got it a week to 10 days ago through a judicial court proceeding. Now's the time to go ahead, get it advertised. We have to obviously name it a surplus property before we can advertise it in the Clinton newspaper. We'll take sealed bids and then we'll go after another property. So.
Is either one of the two guys that were interested in the other one's contacting about this one?
There is interest in this house.
Okay.
What was it obtained for? What was the cost?
I can't tell you what the total cost for our court cost.
This one's in not too bad a shape, am I correct?
You know, structurally speaking, this house is structurally sound. There's obviously holes in the roofs and the foundation. Critters are running in and out. Utilities have been off for an extended period of time. But it's better than the other two houses that we went after.
Sure.
So
It's in a good location anyway.
it's an outstanding location if you want to be up around the parks and school. So, and generally speaking, I think on one of the other houses, you know, and the whole idea is to get another house habitable in the community. Not to tear it down, not to have an empty lot. So I think one house out of those last two cost us a little over $2,000. And if you think about the long term, that we put a family in there, they live in town, they go to school here, they pay utility bills, we really did not lose money when you think about doing that. And that'll be the same with this one. Costs, there aren't a lot of costs associated with this through the city attorney, and we'll either break even or we might come out ahead. You never know when it's a sealed bid.
It's all.
And I will get a tabulated figure on how much that we do have into this, because it does play a role when we can refuse any of
Right, we don't have to
bids.
accept the bids once it's
Correct.
put out yet.
How did this one get into our possession? Was it ordinance violations, or is this the one they had that somebody passed away?
Both. Both. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Good.
I'm good. Yes.
Roll call.
DeMars,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Testory,
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2017-10, rails and trails.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Last week, there was a meeting held over in Leroy, and I was unable to attend it, but I did ask Sandy or the chief, one to be my substitute. And there are some gentlemen here tonight if you have some questions that I might not be able to answer. But what we're doing tonight, folks, we're not committing to spending money. The only thing that we're committing to do is to have a voice in this, which is very important. Because if this goes through and we don't have this resolution in place, quite frankly, anything could happen along this railroad right away. I was talking with John McIntyre, and he's the McLean County Board Chairman, and he says that it looks like we may be about 3 years out before anything really gets going. There are grants out there that's going to pay for a lot of this. There will be some maintenance that we'll have to do. I know Scott had asked me about that. But tonight, we're not spending money. We're not committing to spending money. We're committing that, yes, we want to sit in on the meetings and we want to have a voice in this project. So that's all this resolution is doing. This resolution is a resolution that all communities will vote on the same resolution. So.
Can you layman's term this resolution? Put it in layman's term instead of the way it's written here.
Well, basically, I just gave you,
I know there's some people in town that are concerned about the property line that's on, and they have history with it, and I know Nell was one of those that brought up stuff. What was their intention is what I meant, like, what are they talking about doing?
well,
To it? You're afraid that they could come in and take out the rails and leave us with just a mess if we don't have
that
a
is one
resolution?
thing. Or, you know, that there are fiber optics through there. if there was ever any utilities or anything that would need to be placed along there, you wouldn't have any say-so on that. You would have no control on what goes on in that stretch of railway. It would be a shame for all the communities to sign into this and have a voice, and we're the only community that doesn't. This is something that, and the deadline, and I'll be wrong and they can correct me, I think it's the 20th of this month that these resolutions have to, with a letter of support that'll go along with this, have to be submitted to IDNR. So
This is something that I don't know that any of them know about, but we've been trying to get this for a long, long time.
Well, this actually originally had had started, I believe, 2003, 2004. So you see how long it's taken. And it's just now starting to come back around. So, and there again, it's not that something's going to happen tomorrow. It's still a long-term process. So.
Have you ever seen this project? They have
I've
one
heard about
that
it, but
runs
it's a
from
lot of
Pontiac
information.
to Bloomington, am I correct? And then, well, it goes all the way to Downs.
Runs through Lexington. Well, this one will go through Downs.
Yeah, okay.
This one here. But there is one that goes through Lexington and that. And when we talk about cost, the process would be just like that. We pay a CENTCOM bill, we pay a percentage based on population. And that's how this has been broken down for other of these projects. So our cost would be determined upon that. So, but there again, there's a lot of engineering, there's a lot that has to be done before you even get that far.
So this is a commitment to that part of it too, our portion?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, you said there was a cost.
This is the commitment, so we can sit in on those meetings and give our opinions on how this process plays out.
If we decide we don't want to be on the meetings, we're not obligated to spend any money then.
No? I mean, if you don't have
This becomes a walking trail, right?
Yes.
That was the original plan that we had here.
Right. I talked about this when we were talking about the park out here, was making a walking trail through town and incorporating some of the railroad property into that and be an exercise trail.
And think of it also, folks, that some of the most unsightly property that we have through Farmer City is that railway. And I think somebody has been talking lately about when you come into Farmer City on 150, that's all overgrown, it comes all through town. It'll all be cleaned up. It'll all be cleaned up. And it'll have to be cleaned up should they go in there and remove the rails and the ties. They'll have to get all that out of there. So it's a plus, but there again, it's just a matter of how you feel about it and if you want to participate.
So I guess my question is, who maintains the stretch between city limit line to city limit line when it's due for concrete work or asphalt work and stuff like that?
Well, there'll be some maintenance that we'll have to assume. It's here within the city.
No matter what, whether we sign it or we don't, or
Well, no, if we don't
sign it.
No, if we don't sign it, then,
it just stays the way it is till we deal with it.
I mean, it's not,
If we don't sign it, I don't know that we can, not our attorney can do. I don't think there's anything we can do, even if we wanted to, if we don't get on board early. Is that right, Joe?
Well, I haven't read it, but if it's railroad property, and if it's,
well,
then it's not ours.
I'm going to deflect this, if you don't mind, to Bill and John McIntyre, and I don't want to put out any false information.
There's a lot more history here.
Yes, sir, by all means.
I've lost it.
I'm John McIntyre, and I'm the chairman of the McLean County Board. I live in Normal. I grew up here, playing this alley. We have one over there, as you guys probably some might know. This is Bill Wasson. Bill Wasson's our county administrator. He lives in Lexington. And Jim Solner's vice chairman of the board. He lives in Downs. We've worked on these kind of trails before, and there is one that goes through from, now it's hooked from Towanda down south of Shirley. You know, all the railroads that went through Bloomington there, when they were abandoned, then they have to be rail banked, so the railroad can't sell them off. And we're here because we knew there'd be a lot of questions about what's going on. So we're basically here to answer questions, to tell you about how it kind of works, since we've been through it before. First of all, I guess, to answer one question is, there is no obligation. This is just signing on a resolution so that the possibility that when the Norfolk and Southern does abandon the railroad, we go through a long process, a federal process, and has to be approved and so on. Excuse me, and then that property, which is about 300 acres through here, all told, is available for each community to take a look at and use and be connected. It's a long range, could be a 20-year phased-in project, just like we're working on the Route 66 bike trail now. And so there's no commitment from your part right now, except it's just a sign on. I want to have Bill walk you through maybe some of the things that we have done a little bit, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So, because there are a lot of questions.
So the resolution that you're passing today is a resolution of support and request that the Illinois Department of Natural Resources act as a negotiating agent for all the local governments and the state. If and when the railroad files for abandonment, then we have 180 days basically to try and negotiate. If you filed for abandonment, I think in a very short time window, about 2 weeks, if you file for rail banking of the right-of-way, then the railroad is obligated to negotiate with you for 180 days, or negotiate with someone, or everybody individually if that might be the case. But ultimately, to rail bank the right-of-way, you have to rail bank the entire section. The financial commitment, if there would be one in the future, would come under an intergovernmental agreement that would come back to you for your consideration. The Route 66 trail is a trail that, by example, is something we've done in a very similar manner. Chenoa, Lexington, Towanda, Bloomington and Normal, Shirley, McLean, Funks Grove, all participate. I guess a couple of those are unincorporated, but all have participated in the Route 66 trail program. In that case, they do. The way that intergovernmental agreement is constructed, it is based upon amount of population, and there's also a share taken on by the county as part of that. And I will say that those shares are for major construction, renovation work to the trail. So that means that construction of the trail is shared in that manner. It means that in the future, if you would have a major cost like a culvert replacement or something like that, more than day-to-day sweeping of the trail, trimming the tree branches, those types of things, the expectation is the cost would be shared under that intergovernmental agreement. Now that's a next step, and that is really where a financial commitment would be made by the council. Today what we're asking for you to do is to support the principle of IDNR acting as all of our agents with us to go to the railroad and negotiate the possible rail banking of this line. It won't come for free. The railroad isn't going to give away the railroad right-of-way. But generally speaking, when they can do it as one sale, one parcel through rail banking, it's more cost-effective for them. As we know, there probably are some areas of the right-of-way that could be good farmland, but it is costly to take those berms out, and a large section of it is timber, and right next to a roadway probably wouldn't be as suitable. And so while there'll be a significant cost, Chairman McIntyre described a possibility of a long-term process, and I think Larry discussed that as well. The Champaign to Vermilion County Trail that is just now beginning to be constructed, they went through 8 or 9 180-day extensions while they negotiated with the railroad. Now, the reason for that is generally the railroads have been cooperative, and it takes that long to try and put different funding strategies into place to pay for the acquisition of the right-of-way and construction of the right-of-way. So it does, to try and put all your grants together, look for private funding, both public and private grant opportunities. It may take a long period of time. And, most of us, I think, passed a resolution in 2003, 2004 in support of rail banking, and then the railroad changed their mind and decided that they wanted to do a further economic review of whether the railroad line was viable. They've now determined that, that it's not viable, at least under current conditions. And one of the big benefits to rail banking the entire line is if there are changes in technology, if there are changes in the way we transport things in the future, this corridor might once again be able to provide transportation services for some types of freight. We're looking at all types of innovative transportation today, and having that corridor maintained for infrastructure such as water lines, sewer lines, telecommunications, those types of things, and not having a landowner who the railroad might sell property to any given land individuals who are interested in making a profit from purchase of those railroad right-of-ways, not always the adjacent landowners. And unfortunately, we've run into a lot of circumstances where we've had abandoned railroad properties that are parceled up. Some of the pieces are sold, some of them aren't. They all end up sitting there, and then we end up with kind of adverse situations where people use them to store materials, use them to store trailers, all kinds of things, which are not, they are not met well with by neighbors. And so these types of concepts, trail and community usage of infrastructure can go a long ways towards trying to ensure that it's a good neighbor that occupies that right-of-way. Now there could be discussions about the possibility of how much right-of-way do you ultimately need. And for a trail or for adjacent landowners. And those are things that, through the intergovernmental agreement, communities can kind of dictate and structure what they want to do. Obviously, we want that corridor to maintain, but it may not necessarily mean that ultimately you need 100 feet of corridor, which is what it is now. So there are always those options. And through the intergovernmental agreement that would come later, if in fact we kind of reach a point where all of us are in agreement that DNR's has been successful in its negotiations with the railroad, and we've been able to put together a funding package that's appropriate, then we would bring an intergovernmental agreement negotiated between all of us to each one of the bodies to talk about operation, maintenance, and development of the trail.
There's still got to be a lot of questions.
So this may not become a trail, this may be something else, or they may choose to sell it off some other way.
Well, if the railroad abandons it and you don't bank it, then the railroad can sell it to anybody.
Right.
So I'm just thinking about here in town, since I know town pretty well.
This is the rail line that runs along 150?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if this goes through, then we'll have a trail from 150 to Leroy?
Mansfield Downs.
Bloomington.
The Norfolk.
I mean, the plan is from Bloomington to Mansfield. That entire section is being abandoned.
Starts out southwest corner of Bloomington and it ends that section of Norfolk. They have to abandon the whole section. So everybody on the section has to sign on to bank it.
But it already runs to Downs, correct?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The railroad
right
that's when it runs right through.
Runs right past.
Right through here.
Okay. The school district in Downs.
When you say bank it, it allows them to save it for us to use it interim, but then they can take it back.
So
You talk
well,
about
an active railroad, if it determined that
Yeah.
it would
could
have to
take it back.
purchase it back. from the
Oh,
community.
they'd have to purchase it?
Yes.
They'd have to have approval, okay.
Yeah, they couldn't just
It sounded-
take it without
It sounded
compensation.
like we were, okay.
So if there was an investment made by the state and/or the local governments relative to this and a railroad, and that's not always a bad thing either. You know, from an economic standpoint, if a railroad would determine that there's a reason to economically operate that right away and come back in and reinstall rail, and it's happened on in rare situations across the country, that would probably be a good thing for all of us, that happened. You know, we might lose a resource, but we might gain economically and have the availability. Also, with 100 feet of right-of-way, when a railroad came back to negotiate for the acquisition of that, you know, there obviously could be discussions about, well, what could we keep and what could we sell. So you might be able to maintain some of the facilities or areas that you've developed.
There was a meeting, are you saying? Yeah, you were at this meeting.
Yes.
I just ran some copies of the sign-in sheet, so you guys have an idea about who was at the meeting. I know Larry couldn't be there. And so you can kind of see who was there to discuss it. Most of the communities are like, I think Jim Downs voting on this
Yeah, they meet Thursday night, I'm sure they're gonna vote on it.
And we did talk to all the mayors and county board chairman, Pyatt included, because it ends over there at Mansfield. I think there's still probably more questions I know that are gonna come in mind. I definitely want to give you a card so you guys can call me or Bill or any of us. Be happy to spend more time with you. You said, why are you here? Are you selling something? We're not really selling anything. Why is McLean County involved? It's because we've done it and the rail comes out that far. There's nothing in it for us. I'm talking a little bit about intergovernmental agreement again. Like when right now, we're just got completed from Normal up to Towanda. So that came from, most of these sections, these extensions of the trail outside of the Constitution Trail in Bloomington, Normal, where the railroads went through first, you have to pay for them somehow if you want them paved. You don't have to have them paved, but if you want them paved, you know, with some kind of asphalt or blacktop to ride bikes or things on, then you apply for federal grants. So like every section of the trail, there was a federal grant that we applied for. McLean County, just because it was in our county, did a lot of the highway engineering, kind of provided out of our highway department to help. But the grant then has an 80-20 match. So 80% of the trails extension have been built, the federal government did on grants. So obviously that's in phases. You apply for a grant, you hope you get something, finally you do. The other 20% then is divided up on the cost by the intergovernmental agreement by population. So obviously Shinola, because it runs it from Towanda and Lexington through and so on, didn't pay much compared to Bloomington and Normal and so on. So that's kind of how it works at that point in time.
Yeah.
But that's down the road, and we're not even at that stage at all. In fact, we're at stage is, if you sign on, you're saying it's a good idea to bank it. I tell you what happens. Railroad doesn't bank it, or we don't bank it, anywhere on that. So the rail through Farmer City, then the railroad abandons it. Well, somebody buys it for the backyard. And that happened 3 times in Normal. When they first opened the first section of the trail in Normal, some people had already bought it from the railroad before they decided to make it a trail. So they had, and the bank, the rest of them had to go back and buy those properties back. But if nobody buys it, and there's section in, you know, through here, you know, Caraway's Pond.
No, but I've heard
It's not there anymore, we know where it was. Anywhere through there, maybe nobody'd buy it. So what happens to it? Well, the railroad still abandons it. So that's where stuff gets piled, that's where trash goes. You know, people throw their stuff. Now maybe some guy will buy a part of it, use it for who knows what, you know, parking something, or storage and so on. But this way you have say over what's done there. And then the intergovernmental agreement, how far away are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
4 years?
So I did want to, one thing I wanted to make sure that I don't leave the wrong impression on is the Route 66 trail project has been going on for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Because of the cost and the way that we've developed them, it takes time. This is a long-term project. Now there are sections in Shinoa, There's a section in Lexington, there's a section in Towanda that are finished. We do have Towanda and Normal connected now, and we've got a section north of Towanda done. We're not quite to the Lexington section yet. That's in the next phase. We've got a section south to Shirley from Bloomington, and a section that gets us just at Funk's Grove. So we've got another section, but it does take time. It takes each of these is just like a road project. So it can take 3 years from the time we engineer it, plan it, and get grant funding through a cycle for it, and then go ahead and construct it. It can absolutely take 3 years to complete that process. And we have to be mindful that we have to have enough money available to do these kind of chunks. And I will say, this rail trails can be developed much more easily without hard surface than the Route 66 trail could. So you could have a limestone screen surface, which is what you'll find in a lot of areas in Missouri or Wisconsin on rail trails. It's much more economical to build than a paved surface. It's hard as rock in the summertime when it's dry.
You've got that rail bank already.
So because of the way that you got ballast already in place and those types of things, that could quicken the pace of and much reduce the cost of construction for this trail. Now we're going to have acquisition costs for this trail that we didn't have for the Route 66 program, because the Route 66 program utilized abandoned Route 66 right-of-way, which still was possessed by IDOT. So each trail, each program has differences, but I will say that a lot of our communities, Downs especially, Leroy, have looked at this right-of-way for purposes of community infrastructure, sewer lines, water lines, telecommunications, and being able to connect different areas, both currently and in the future, gives them options that they didn't have before. And it also, by having it be a public right-of-way that's controlled by the governmental units, it would mean that you wouldn't have to be getting an easement across somebody's private property if you have to cross a railroad right-of-way, which you would in the future if it's all sold off. So those things become a challenge as well. So those are just things to think about.
So this is giving the DNR kind of power of attorney or ability to represent us.
Yeah, ask them to represent all the local governments kind of as an agent, because they have done this before on a number of occasions. The Champaign right-of-way, there was right-of-way south of Springfield that they worked on. They worked on some trail projects up north, and the same folks would be involved in this process. So they would be working on all our behalves, and just as we had the meeting last week, they would give all entities plenty of input, and then ultimately any decision-making process will still have to come back through an intergovernmental agreement to each of us to decide whether ultimately that's a good decision or not for each community.
They started in Norfolk Southern, started in this process 2003, wasn't it not?
The last abandonment was filed,
Back out of it.
actually started in about 2001, 2002. They filed for abandonment at the very end of 2003 or January of 2004, and then immediately within less than 30 days, they notified us that they had made a mistake and that they were withdrawing their abandonment petition. And we were told it was for business reasons.
So you're certainly welcome to come up. Be happy, man, if you want to come up, and I can show you some of the trail that became Bloomington Normal's largest park system. And the part that wasn't taken care of over the years when the railroad had already started to abandon it, grew up, and now it's a nice park. There's nice trees, and some of us, if you've been on it, if you haven't been on it, be happy to have you come up and I can show you some of that. And then, we go out and try to help plant trees and things along the way of the routes as well. Over in western Illinois, there's not asphalt surface, and the one that runs along the Illinois River up Starved Rock, the old I&M Trail, that was the tow trail for the boats years ago. It's all shale. I rode my bike on it from Utica over to the south, and it was good too.
That was all lime too, isn't it?
That's
Yeah, that's the last
And the one over here in western Illinois runs out, how far out? That's where you're
Well,
out down.
oh, you be Rock Island Trail, the Rock Island Trail runs out of Peoria to the west. And
It does be spread a number of people that ride bikes and go out and use it, but it's absolutely not locking you into anything, and money-wise as well, because I know how that can be. It's just a matter of signing on to it and trying to get things saved.
I just have two quick questions. One was, when it gets to negotiations, who negotiates? Like the representative of the council after we've discussed
Good
the
question.
best place, or is it just lawyers, or is it, there's these...
you mean negotiating an intergovernmental agreement?
Yes.
Generally
You
speaking,
talked about that one had like multiple 180-day extensions.
yeah. So when you start the process of actually negotiating an intergovernmental agreement, generally we would have both staff and attorneys involved in those overviews. Obviously, what we would probably do to save the municipality, no offense, sir.
I know where you're going.
We have attorneys that are we have attorneys that are full-time county
Real fine
employees.
attorneys, real
That's
good
right.
attorneys.
We have
And
two right down the hall from me, and assistant state's attorneys for civil matters that work for us.
so we will have them, likely drafting up agreements in concert with discussion with staffs who will obviously be talking to their elected bodies. Ultimately, we would always share those. The attorneys, when they're directly involved, not sharing stuff with us, but wanting to share with you as a unit of government, it's only appropriate that those things be shared attorney to attorney.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if, okay, so this keeps them from selling it out before we have a say in what happens to it. Can it still be sold after we sign the resolution? Can portions of it?
So
If it works out better that some portion of it is in somebody's...
if the determination is that ultimately rail banking is not the best fit for the communities along the right-of-way, then the railroad has the ability to sell to
But it's still
whoever
all
they
or
would
none.
like to.
It's all or none?
It is.
From a rail banking standpoint, it is, because the whole theory behind the federal rail banking statute is
That block of it?
to save that entire corridor.
Okay.
Let me ask you a quick question. You said this goes out 20 years. If somebody's using the property in the meantime, how do you get them off after 20 years?
Well, our experience has been, and I think back in 2003, 2004, if you know people who had property along here in 2003, 2004, the railroads tend to begin to notify adjacent landowners in that period of time that they are encroaching on their right-of-way. That is their mechanism to defend their property rights, because if anybody comes in and wants to buy this right-of-way for any reason, they're going to want to sell you the entire 100-foot, right? They're going to want to. They're not going to want to sell you 70-foot and say that the folks next door have a right to that remaining property because of the fact that they've farmed it for the last 10 years. So what railroads will do, generally speaking, I can't speak for this one in this case, but I was told in 2003, 2004 that there were a lot of letters that went out when they were contemplating abandoning the right-of-way to adjacent landowners, reminding those landowners of where their right-of-way was, and that if they were encroaching on it, they should cease and desist.
Yeah, out west of town, somebody was tearing rail out a couple of years ago. I don't know what the situation was.
Yeah. I don't know anything about tearing rail out, so.
This group right here, I know John for a long time, and it's a good group to get involved in.
I don't see any problem getting involved with it.
Listen, can I say
Jessica,
yes?
sure.
She took a picture on my card, and that, on my
Yeah.
card is my cell phone. And
I'll
if you
email it
got
to you,
questions, or you wanna look around the trail, or you want me to come down, have sister in town, come down.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
guys for coming up.
Roll call.
Harden,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Testori,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
motion carried.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why I can't do that. Nelva, you turned it in after the time, but I'm gonna go ahead and, let you address the city council, and I think, unless there's any objections, I'm gonna do that now before we go into executive session. Therefore, if you don't wanna stay, you don't have to, okay? So, you have the floor.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and I'm so glad that I got in on that little conversation. And sometimes, you know, it's hard to find a handicap spot out in front unless I call and make arrangements ahead of time. Sometimes I don't know if I'm going to show up a certain night or not. It'd be nice to have a handicap spot out there. I have lumbar stenosis and deteriorating degenerative or spinal column and everything. Medical problems. Now, I can stand and sit. I get out and ride my mower and mow my property, 2 of them. I can weed eat with the still weed eater as long as I take a chair and sit down and get up and do it. My thing is, my son Steve and I was born in Farmer City in 1946 and then left and then came back when I was a teenager and worked up here. And then my husband and I moved our new mobile home into 500 East High Street. My husband knew Dave Lamb, who owned the 3 lots there. And so we parked our trailer there in 1969. And we rented the lot off of Dave Lamb. And Dave he owned the 3 lots here. He owned the 3 lots, and as you can see, he told me his property went on the other side of the tracks. Now here's the 3 lots that Dave owned. Here's the 500 block of the street. So when our trailer was parked here in 1969, and then Dave went into the nursing home, and his son, Sonny, come over and said, "Hey, you want to buy this property?" I said, "Not really, because I'd already bought a property over the town. Wanted to move my mobile home." But so my banker, well, I said, "Go ahead. You know, you don't have down payment. You don't need it or nothing." So went ahead and got it because my mobile home had been there since 1969. And the thing is, when the railroad stopped, when the trains stopped going through there, and they were hard to get used to with the trains and the school bells down there at the school when you come from the country. When they stopped going through there, I don't think Farmer City kept the tracks mowed, the center, or that 100 feet like they should have. So my lot, when I bought it, lot 12 in block 14 of the Huddleston division, at the time I bought it, nobody told me, being a female, that I was buying an irregular lot. Irregular means I assumed I was buying a lot 50 foot by 120 or 25 on both sides. So just because the train went through there, when I moved there, I didn't know. I just thought the train was on the tracks. They had their own property, and my lot, they had a full lot. Well, the thing is, as you can see from this little picture here, you can pass it around. This is High Street, and Dave owned this property here, where the red is. So his land...
Technically, he actually didn't own this.
Well, I don't know if Dave was born and raised there. He was an old man, you know, and stuff. But he said these 3 lots was his, and he said, "I own property across the railroad here, across the railroad." And if you see this red here, I imagine his lots were more than 120 feet like they are over on Richardson Street. So later on, when I got to check it out in DeWitt County and I saw a map like this, and I'm thinking, oh, my lot here is small. You know, and I assumed it's going all the way back for $5,000. You want to see a picture of it? And so, anyway, I asked Sonny if he would survey it so we'd know, and he said no. He said,
right here?
Yeah, it's this right here, this little lot here, and this is 50 foot. I assumed, and Dave owned all this, Dave Lamb.
Who owns this garage right here? It says it's actually next to that trailer.
Well, yeah, well, it looks like it's next to the trailer right there, and there's a, that's a
It
good
looks that way
picture.
here on here too.
When I bought that in Sunny Lamb, he won $5,000 and stuff, and he said, I said, where's the property lines at? Because they sold me the shed too, the concrete building. And I said, well, where's the property line really? Well, he said, it's a foot to the west of the concrete building, which an old man lived back in there, and, I thought somebody said Jeff Newberry. He lived back in there, and Dave apparently let him build that concrete shed. He lived there, and Dave sold him 75 foot in there. So apparently the old man put the building over, 75 feet instead of 50. And so I didn't know that at the time either, but the thing is, in 1977, I think it was, I went ahead
No,
and bought the property.
just real quick, that there is a 5-minute time limit. You're kind of getting past.
I understand you got a 5-minute time limit.
I guess my question is, what is it that you're asking?
But
the
what
city
I
council?
want to know is, now, I had, one information demanded information, and I need answers from you, and I was hoping they'd stay so I'd get some answers from them. But they're gone.
We can maybe
I'll
give you
give you
contact
that, I'll give you
information.
that card.
Good. But I called in February when I read about this January something and this Greenview going on. I called down to the North Fork. And then they were going to call me back, and then today I called them again. My son and I had took a ride over to Leroy a few weeks ago. We were talking to some owners of the property over there, and the Federal Railway or something had been over there and talked to them. They wanted their stuff moved. Everybody's hardware. As you go south to the word McDonald's. We talked to the owner, and he said, the guy came in with his gun and everything and said he wanted that stuff moved from behind Ace Hardware down there at Leroy. You should go turn left to go toward McDonald's. And he said, I wasn't going to move all that stuff, so he said, I got a lease, $50 a year for 10 years. I signed. So he said, I could leave my stuff set there. And he said, furthermore, there's some people in Leroy that doesn't like this idea of going through here. And he said they're going to contact an attorney and file a lawsuit. And so I called a lawyer down there today, one of the lawyers, and he said, I will send you a lease, your son and you, to fill out and sign. And back 10 years ago or so, when the train stopped running, I called down there, the rail, North Fork or whatever, and they said, don't worry, as long as the tracks remain, until they were abandoned. When the tracks were abandoned, that they would notify each landowner of the property. And so I said, okay. So we waited and waited instead of trying to get something bigger and put there or whatever. And so then when I saw that in the paper in January about the Greenview and everything, and what I need to know is, I told the lady when I called down there, that Lawada, someone thought her name was in the paper, when I called down to
What are you
North
asking the
Fork.
city council?
What I'm asking you guys is how you can take property that when fiber optic went under those tracks on our property, and in 2014, my son and I got papers to fill out, and Walter Lee did too, because the railroad had allowed fiber optic to go underneath our property without each landowner's permission.
Okay.
So then, I'm sure you don't if you don't live by the tracks like I have. But my point is, when I was told then, when those tracks come up, each landowner would be notified about their right-of-way that they had taken.
That's not this, this isn't the city, that would be the road.
But it hasn't come up yet either.
And
They
it hasn't been abandoned
it
yet or anything like that, so I don't know if there's anything that we can help you with.
Of course, and it's like over at Leroy, it hasn't been abandoned yet over there too. When Steve and I went to Mansfield over there, we looked at the track. Underneath the overpass there, when you follow the track, it's already, tracks are coming up over there.
Okay.
And so it's not going to go through, not Leroy, Mansfield. It's not going to go through Mansfield like I assumed. by the tracks and on 150.
We'll go ahead and end your
And
time
my
now.
point is,
We're going to go ahead and end your time right now, Ms. Nelva. I don't know if there's anything, I mean, that doesn't sound
what
like the
I
question.
want to know is how you all can think you can take property that Steve got a check for because that land is ours.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you don't know. I don't know what you all are trying to
Can I see your
do.
map real quick? And
You
I
know,
have a question for you.
There's just this little section here in Farmer City where you go, here's Allen Street
So
and
this
here's
is,
High.
this is your property line,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
This is the railroad tracks.
Yeah, and here's Lee's property down here, and Lee got a letter also when that fiber optic had to pay up to the landowners here. We were notified by letter, filled out papers, mailed them back in, got a check. Lee did too. And whether this Dalbert next door or not knew, because he hadn't been there that long, I don't know if he got a letter or not. So the part of town this thing's gonna do is this area mostly here. And as far as living in trailers, not all of us can live in houses and stuff like that.
That has
And we don't have- I know, but when I hear remarks about,
We aren't making
living in
remarks,
trailers.
let's not address that. So
Okay, we won't. So my point is, I don't know what y'all are gonna do tonight.
we've already voted, just, all we did was just to be part of the discussion. There's no vote that the
If we
railroad.
didn't do what we
Yeah.
did tonight, we would have no say-so.
The railroad could have sold that portion of your property that you didn't ask
And the
about, that
railroad
wasn't
still
yours.
owns
They could
it.
have
They
sold
can
it
do
to
whatever
someone
they want
else.
to.
When I read on this railroad thing, North Fork and Southern, it said down there that the North Fork and Southern was using the tracks for their personal benefit for the train and the tracks. And that only. So when everybody wants to go in and try to get this trail thing has nothing to do with train business or making money or the trains running at all.
So you definitely want to get in on opinion when it comes to what happens with that possibility. But as of now,
There's
all
no
we did was
discussion
keep
that's-
them from hopefully selling
Yeah.
that corner of your property and putting whatever.
They haven't even,
They want
they haven't
that.
abandoned it yet or anything.
Yeah.
This is just that if they do, we would like to be part of the discussion.
Well, I'm
So-
under the impression when they abandon it, they're gonna notify the landowners that live there by the tracks.
Yeah, but
That's on them, though.
That's on them, that's not us. So I thank you for your time, but yeah, it sounds like.
We hear you.
We do hear you. I think that the discussion, some of the discussion needs to be held with them, not us. We don't own the land.
But
So
I'm gonna
thank you,
say-
ma'am. Thank you.
You wouldn't mind having horses in your back lot.
Oh, sure.
The thing is, me, when I have,
No, the
I
time's
know
up.
that, but I want my whole
No, but
lot
respectfully, thank you.
used as
Your
you
time up.
do, you do and
No,
you
but
do.
thank you for your time.
Yes,
Thank you.
I know talking to you is like a brick wall, and some of the others up here, just like the trailer ordinance years ago.
Very good, Melvin. Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
I hear nothing you say, you know.
Entertain the next.
Make a motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel, discuss employment compensation, discipline, and/or performance of specific employees. Pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/2C.
Are you done?
One.
I'll second it.
Call it.
Kelly,
Yes.
Testori,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Mars,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
motion carries.
We are now in executive session. Feel free to open session. And we're moving on to the city manager's report.
I only have a couple things here, folks, and while I was gone, the EPA called and made a somewhat surprise inspection of the wastewater treatment plant. They went over several different key areas out there, and they also went and inspected the lift stations, made sure that we weren't bypassing into the creek. We came out pretty good. There were some points that will have to be addressed. Mostly paperwork items, nothing of any great magnitude, except for that we were reminded again that there is a mandate that we're going to have to start chlorinating the effluent as it leaves the sewer plant. Well, that's because of that nuclear power plant out there. We had gotten word about a year ago it was going to be $200,000. We don't know when this mandate's going to be shoved down our throats, but it's something that's obviously not going to go away. So keep that in mind, that you're going to continue to hear about that as the EPA starts telling us the process and starts giving us deadlines and
Is that a
all that.
one-time, is it a one-time?
That 200,000 will be
Fixed plan.
engineering and installation of the chlorination equipment. There was some, the plant was designed with some chlorination equipment in there, but over the years, it has been removed.
So there's chlorination maintenance after that?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
sure.
So do we need to maybe budget this item for future use?
Well, I think that the thing to do is to start setting aside X number of dollars each year for that, so, and
Could their funds support that at all, or, I mean,
not in its entirety on a one-time deal, no, no. Okay, so,
sorry.
we had a department head meeting approximately 2 weeks ago, and one thing that was discussed was during a school day in April that we would close the Allen Street in front of the light plant, set out some of our city equipment, notify the school, and allow the school kids to come through and do tours. As, if you remember correct, when we had Verbal Blakey here, we talked about how people had never been in the light plant. Shortly after that, the guys got called to do their regular run. I had posted that video, and there seemed to be some interest. And I don't believe that the kids have ever seen it. April is Public Utility Safety Month, and so we've got some banners and stuff. So we thought that is something that would be neat to do. If we did it during a school day, there's no overtime. It's really not going to cost us anything, except for the fact that maybe potholes didn't get taken care of or anything of that nature. So that's something that we're looking to do. A good PR tool for the city.
This be open to anybody?
Yes, it would be an open house. We would put it out there, so if you wanted to come out to the light plant and take a tour, that would be a good time. You know, it's not that we're going to have the generators fired up or anything. Quite frankly, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But the light plant would be open, the street would be closed. We might even have the police department there. So we would make
Like a public works day.
a day of this, and even if it was only from for 3 or 4 hours. But it's something that, again, would be a good PR tool. And actually, there are some contests throughout the state of Illinois on different communities that do this. So
They do a lot of those touch a truck things, you know, that kind of.
yeah, you know, you set a backhoe out there, kids would just be fascinated. They'd get a backhoe. You know, kids would just be fascinated. They go out here to Central Illinois Ag. So anyway, we're thinking about doing that. You see that we're trying to get some bids for some roofs. I did ask our street superintendent to contact some contractors to go out there, get the measurements, see what it's going to take to put a new roof on the large pavilion. That's the one in between both ball fields. That thing's in bad shape. Clark Foundation actually came to me and said, hey, they'd like to provide us some assistance. I told them that our funds are pretty tight. We never have a lot of money for recreation. South Park is recreation. And Scott personally knows that because of his campsite out there, and that we had limited funding for anything that he came to us about. So anyway, we're hoping that we can get a couple price quotes, get that submitted in time because they meet Thursday. So anyway, you also see that Ruth and I are working on the preliminary budgets. Obviously, they're going to have a lot of tweaking that needs to be done, but we can get those things wrapped up. Then I'll get you guys a copy of that Wednesday. It should be in your mailbox or in your door or personally delivered. And then after that, Mayor, we're going to have some meetings and start going over that. So, and while I was gone also, folks, I was like visual aids. But anyway, you see that there had been some question about the 20 acres. And so I have been working with Farnsworth Group. This is data, so this just came in. It depicts a street, dead-end street, and actually putting the Mach 1 or a station similar to that. You see that there's a car wash in that. Out there, this would be a fast food outlet. We're talking about bringing the water down because it would come over to Richardson Street. The sewer would come a different direction. And then speaking with Mark Gardner out at the power plant, we would actually bring the power in off of John Street. So we want to go, for any of the utilities, we want to go the shortest distance.
From DeKalb, basically.
Monsanto? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's the point where we come in. We actually have the switch stations and metering devices out there. And so we could come in and follow the interstate around.
So is that top line, is that where our property stops?
Up here,
Yeah.
Is that the 20 acres?
I'm looking upside down. This is the 20 acres. Now keep in mind that this is floodplain.
Sure.
So nothing will be able to be built down there.
But that road could extend.
To a hotel?
Oh, the road can go anywhere.
Yeah.
If you remember correctly, that, right, a hotel, whether it be the cobblestone label or whatever, could be put out here. So this could go anywhere. And then as you go north, that's all farmland that's privately owned. There again, we're working on that to try to get that into the city limits. People have always said that we're landlocked. You know, we have reached out to Stuart Drake for housing out here on the west side. If we can go north, then that might give us an opportunity in the future. Nothing happens overnight in the future for additional houses. So we are working on it, okay?
Thank you.
Are there any questions to the city manager in his report?
Yes. On the roof, can that opportunity be presented to the high school?
Kind of busy.
You know, I gotta tell, well,
Usually picks up assignments ahead of time, Mr. Seneca.
yeah, I gotta tell you, they don't like doing those type of projects.
All right.
I reached out to the school once, and they get, in their classes, they get credits through Parkland College for building garages and that. So just to go out there and use their labor force to put a roof on, they're gonna turn it down. I mean, it's a good question, but I've asked before about other
Well, it's like
projects.
it drives without the walls.
Well, it is.
It's not enough of a long-term learning. I mean, there's.
And I've asked them about, for the sake of building us a pavilion right over here on the corner. So I have asked them before.
All right.
They like to do like, not
Picnic tables.
the complete pavilion or
Right.
complete building, stuff like that.
Right. And unless you have other questions, also, the police chief is here tonight to make a little bit of a presentation as well, folks.
Any other questions to the city manager's report?
I had a question about some of the spending on for the power plant audit. It looked like it cost about $19,000 for all of Verbal's work. Does that sound-
I believe that is the
That
case,
sounds about
yes.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. And
Surprised.
I want to say if we go back, that there was a resolution when we,
To have her come.
yes.
Well, I knew there was something about having her come. I can't remember there being an amount on any of it, but and I know it was broken up, but I just added it. That's one. Woo.
Yeah.
Lane, the job that they did for the well,
Lane Western?
Lane Water
yes.
Resources.
Yes.
Okay. It came in like 30% over budget. Did
Yes.
something go wrong?
Yes, because they came in and they came in and they did some initial work and then found out that there was additional work. So there was actually 2 bills. So that's probably why you would see that.
Oh, it just showed us one
Right.
check of $33,000.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes better sense that, so it's like, wow, that's a pretty bad estimate. But
Yeah. No, it wasn't a bad estimate, and
Well, I meant for
no.
one job.
yeah, and
Or off.
I don't know that it came in over what they quoted us.
Got
Jessica,
the second job too.
there was extensive work out there, what they had to do to get that well back on.
And then that's what we paid, so Farnsworth, that's what we paid Farnsworth for, no, not that, sorry. Is that the 8,000 for Farnsworth, or is it the detention basin that we've been paying them for?
Well,
It says detention, it says Prairie View Detention Basin, that they've been working on in January and February. And they-
Yes.
And that
that's
was,
for out there.
yes,
That was an old bill that had not been paid.
okay. They don't have any plans then yet?
No.
Oh, well, besides what we talked about earlier.
Any other questions to the city manager's report? Sir, you have the floor. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, that's quite all right, thank you. Hate to talk about money, but I'm here to talk about money again. So, some of you may know that we've run into some issues with the squad cars. They're older cars, and so naturally they're going to take some maintenance and things. One of them in particular, the one that Officer Ballard had been driving, we had some issues with it, overheating and with the cooling system, and that was occurring when I first got here. During that time frame, we've spent a little over $3,000 for the repairs of that vehicle. It's got about 72,000 miles on it. During some of the issues that we were having last night, they had that out, and it stopped on it completely. The transmission looks like it's out of that. That's probably another $3,000 to repair that. That's just based on some other estimates we had in the past. Frankly, I don't think that's worth putting into that particular vehicle. And we have some other vehicles kind of in the same boat. We've got another Impala out there that's got some transmission issues with it right now, and that's the one that right now we're looking at Officer Gula driving. So what I've been looking into is reducing the number of vehicles that we have. We've got like 4 vehicles right now, and was looking at some new vehicles, just getting some estimates so you'll know what that would run if we decided to do something like that. Currently, state bid has Ford Explorer and Chevrolet Tahoes as far as for SUV type vehicles, which I think would be beneficial due to the location where we're at and having to go out on the interstate to assist state police or the county and that type of thing. The Ford Explorer on the state bid runs about $28,773, and that's just a bare bones, but it's police package. The Tahoe's more expensive. It's about $31,770. Now we have,
one more time.
I'm sorry, $31,770,
And the Explorer was 23,770.
$28,773.
What are they, 32 and 29?
Correct.
60,000 vehicles.
And I'm just giving you the estimates of what those type of vehicles would run. We have a private vendor here in Illinois that actually has beaten the Ford Explorer cost, and it's at $27,971. So that there is a vendor that we could actually get it a little cheaper than that. One of the things that we did do is just check with the banks to see if there's any banks interested, like our local bank, and then another bank that's in the area but out of town. And they are interested. The out-of-town bank interest rate was a little lower than the local bank, though. Looking at the cost factors of what something like that would run, if we, let's say, obtained 2 vehicles, 2 Explorers, and replaced the 3 Impalas and the Explorer that Officer Brown or Sergeant Brown is driving now, it's got about 90,000. That would run 4 years, about 21,000 a year for those vehicles. Now, one of the things that we can do to offset some of course, maintenance costs are going to be dropping completely, or pretty much, not completely, but pretty much, and we're not going to have as many vehicles. We would have those 2 vehicles and the Crown Victoria out there. That would be the 3 vehicles we would have. And one of the things that could help offset the cost of that is through the fines that we have through the police department. Currently, we could set aside probably $10,000 to $12,000 to go towards that first year. We have that currently on hand, so we could use something like that.
So we would be looking at 2 new vehicles and keeping the Ford Crown Vic.
Vic that Larry had gotten. It's in pretty good shape. So right now what's going on is they're using the Explorer. They've been nursing that Impala with the semi-bad transmission and using in fact, Officer Gula is using the Explorer, or not the Explorer, but the Crown Vic right now.
06 Impala, that's the one we just got rid of, right?
Are they about the same size, the Tahoe and the Explorer?
Tahoe's a little bigger.
Yeah, that's
Longer.
Yeah. And I've talked to the sheriff's office. I know Clinton PD has some Explorers too, and they've been pretty satisfied how they've been holding up and that type of thing. I don't know who. I'm sure people like the Tahoe, but I don't know of anyone that's using that currently.
Is there any economic benefit to using something like pickup trucks like the DNR does?
Couple of issues I can see with that is being so light in the back during the winter, especially if you have to go out someplace. You'd have to have something in there to be able to hold gear. For example, Officer Ballard is on ILEAS, and so he's subject to call. Let's say there's some major event occurs and he's got to go someplace. He's got a ton of equipment that they've provided for him to use in those events. So storage is an issue. Transportation of prisoners, you'd have to have a four-door, generally a four-door truck to do that. I've never tried using the truck, so I don't know how successful. I know the sheriff drives one, but I don't know if he...
Yeah, the DNR uses them too, but I don't take prisoners.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be a limitation for us, and we definitely have to accommodate some prisoner transportation occasions. So that's something, I think that's something that we're going to have to look at probably sooner than later. And the reason I'm thinking of 2 now is because with these 4 vehicles, this one private vendor would take them in on trade, and they'd have more value now than they would probably a year from now.
Is this something that you can work with Larry about getting in the budget?
Yes, I've been talking to Larry and looking at our current budget, especially compared to another thing too, of course, is the overtime that the police department has just kind of blown up from this last year. It's going to be down dramatically. So that'll help from one standpoint.
So you're trying to figure out about 9,000 a year, sounds right?
For the first year, and I'm assuming we'll still collect fines and penalties and stuff to offset that. We still want to offset that.
What fund is it coming from of yours? I know a lot of people complain about it coming from the DUI fund. I don't know what else they expect to spend on except maybe a little prevention, awareness,
Right, and
education.
that's what
I'd like to
that
see
is.
that.
It's a DUI fund, and it's going in there, but it's just not, DUI fund set up for DUI enforcement and that kind of thing, but it also has some other monies going in there. We've had some impound monies and different things like that going in there as well.
Should the out-of-town bank have a lower interest rate?
That's correct.
Will Heartland negotiate or?
Will they match it?
No.
We're going to go back.
Yeah.
When we get to that stage, and Terry had researched USDA, and so, I mean, we're working this as far as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, because we went to an out-of-town bank, to get a reference point, I think that, and we had discussed, that we will go back, and we'll give them, one more chance to at least match it.
Yeah, I'd like to
And we do, we had that discussion. And if you picked up on what he said, and another 2 points here is that he's downsizing the fleet. There's an administrative car out there that people swear up and down is a squad car. It's an administrative vehicle, but that would also be included. So that's another vehicle that is off the books. And if you get 2 vehicles now, you're actually saving money. You might say, well, this is $70-some thousand. But because you are using your trade-ins, if you're going to lose those trade-ins, when come next year you say, oh, well, we need another car. Now you don't have the trade-ins. So to do 2 vehicles at one time, you're actually getting, because he did crunch the numbers, you're saving money. So the way to do it is 2 at once.
So you're dropping the fleet to 3, that's your plan? Is
Yes.
a fleet of 3?
And then he mentioned USDA, and I was afraid to mention this only because I'm working with them. I talked to Larry, he's dealt with USDA before, and of course they're in a continuing resolution with the federal government right now, and they're just waiting to get that finalized. But I'm going to be getting with them and put in an application package. There's a possibility that we could get some monies for vehicles and equipment that way too, but that remains to be seen.
Are either of the SUVs four-wheel drive? Does the Officer Ballard need a four-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive.
They are all-wheel drive? Okay.
That's a huge benefit here in the winter. It just is.
Well, yeah. I
You
mean,
gotta go pick somebody up
In
out
town
on
and
the
out of
interstate.
town.
in the ditch.
Well, yeah, if he's working with ILE and all that, that'd be beneficial to him to have four-wheel drive.
And they're truly running limp here. I mean, they really are. So just be prepared, because I think at the next meeting that there'll be something presented to you.
And we make our plea to the repair people, saying, now are you sure that whatever's being done may not have been done previously and caused this? And they're assuring us, no, these are just, it's taking its toll on these
That
vehicles.
2011, that's the one we just got, right?
No.
No, wasn't that the newest one that we bought?
Well, no, Officer Ballard's car is a 2011.
I thought we got one.
the Crown Vic out there, is that what you're thinking? We're keeping that car.
Yeah,
That's the
so
one we
there's
just
two of them that have about 70,000.
Yeah, we're retaining the Crown Vic.
And it's sort of fun, we haven't had any problems with that.
That's the one that, for 3 weeks in a row was in the paper.
Your downsizing included 3 cars, I'll defend that all day.
Oh, I know, we talked about that, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
We noticed
That was
that
the
right
goal,
off.
yeah. And you're talking about new vehicles,
Correct.
and is there, you said 21,000 a year, so these would be trade-in, or lease, are you leasing, or are you purchasing?
Well,
Because if you're talking 20,000 a year, they should be paid off in 3 years, but obviously that, you're not saying that.
Right, that's based on financing that they showed us through
Okay.
one of the banks.
And we even checked with the Ford Motor Company, and they're not competitive.
no,
by
they're way
any
too
means.
high.
So local bankings will be Ford Motor
Have you
Company.
figured in what it's gonna cost to outfit them though, too? Because I mean,
That includes it.
that includes outfitting, okay, because I know that's,
I think that's everything but the decals? Or-
All the decals included.
So there you go. Turnkey.
These gonna be the invisible decals, like the stealth?
No,
I kind of see it coming.
I know, we want to,
Have people to see us, we want people to know that the squad cars are out there and they're to provide some service, so we're going to make sure that they
spotlights on both sides.
have lights and everything that will be visible.
Any other question, or any other updates?
I got a comment.
Yes, Doug.
Okay. Thank you very much for what you just did.
okay.
That's
The plan's
fantastic.
nice.
I do have something real quick, sir. I just got an email from a citizen that, this is pertaining to our golf cart ordinance. As you know, that we allow golf carts with certain restrictions to drive through the community, as long as they're licensed, if you will. But they were wondering about a utility terrain vehicles being added to that ordinance. So I guess without putting you on the spot at this time, I'd like to get some feedback by the next city council meeting
Sure.
on whether or not you think that that would be a good idea, if there's reasons why we shouldn't do it, if you could give us a list of that. If you don't see any reasons why we shouldn't, just give us a report back so that we can see if we can't, look into this.
Okay.
So appreciate
I
that.
understand that but those things go a lot faster than a golf cart will ever
You
hit.
gotta abide by the rules.
Yeah, but as long as we're talking golf carts, it's my feeling that the current ordinance is a little strict, because the older carts don't have lights. And a lot of the cities don't have lights on their cars, they have triangles and flags. And I would like to see the golf cart ordinance eased up on a little bit, so maybe some of the older carts could be used. Maybe, we're in a farm community, right? We got farmers up and down the road on tractors, no license plates. Maybe to restrict the travel or the speed, whatever, in exchange for maybe letting up on the lights.
Probably the timing, I guess,
Hours.
and I haven't
Talk to the officers to see if they've had a problem with
We've got a country
driving
club.
at night, right?
We've got a country club and guys like to drive to and from it.
Cross
Current
50 to get
I want to
there.
go out on the limb here and say, I believe state statute dictates the equipment that you'll have on a golf cart to have it on a public
Goes on
roadway.
state.
There is a difference between an implement of husbandry, a tractor, and a slow-moving emblem, and a golf cart on a public
but
roadway.
I'll go ahead and have all that for you.
I know from talking with IDOT that you can have them create crossing zones across the highways where you restrict, you can't drive on the highway, but you can cross it at certain places like the snowmobile routes. So anyhow, if you can find a way to ease up on the golf cart.
I'll take a look.
I do have a
Yes,
couple
sir.
things for you.
Sure.
While you're here. We've talked about the Monroe Street master
Zero
plan.
day.
Yeah, and some of it is,
Did you look next door? Because that's where it's going.
when you say next door, you're talking about as far as what's being removed or where they're moving it
Just taking
to?
it to the trailer
Yes.
next to them.
I know, I saw that today, and in fact, one of the officers had spoken to the people there, and they asked him, when the weather gets better, we'll take, and so I'm going to follow up with him to see, we've got a deadline, we're going to put a deadline on
I
it.
drove by and I just noticed, man, it's really starting to get cleaned up back there. And then I drove back the other way and
The other
noticed
side.
that the other side was full, so.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that today. We're addressing that.
And then the other thing I had, I know we talked about abandoned vehicles, unlicensed vehicles, boats, RVs that are sitting. I don't know if you guys have been tagging those, and I've seen people just tear tags off, throw them off. But I had a guy ask, he has you know, we've got a few people in town that have drag cars, mud trucks. They're not licensable. So how do you want to handle those as far as some of them leave them on a trailer in a driveway and some of them sit in a driveway. They leave every week on a trailer, but there's been a couple of them that's been tagged. This has been in the past.
I was going to say, not this year, because basically what I've asked for the officers to do is provide a list to me, and then what I was going to do is reach out and contact them, probably personally, knock on the doors, talk to them, say, hey, next things will be come out will be letters and things. But that's a good question, because I've also seen more like classic cars sitting in people's driveways, parked where it looks like that they're planning on restoring them. We're in the process of restoring them. You know, I'm looking for a little guidance on that as far as how far reaching. When you're talking about Monroe, I've noticed a couple other places where they've had some buildings that are, I wouldn't want them on my property in the condition they're in, just afraid of someone coming on there. So, you know, we're open to enforcement, but I think maybe a little feedback, maybe talk a little bit about on what we're looking to accomplish with that.
Sure.
Can people have a type of permit
Well,
that they
that
register
was
for
my other
the
thing.
city?
You know, you've got the golf cart stickers. Say somebody like that, is there a tag or something that can be put on so the officers
aware.
know, look, this is an off-road vehicle. Yes, it's used. It's not just out here and collecting dust and rust.
Right.
You know,
Or it
maybe
can get on
that's
the
an
list
option.
here? Can it get on a list here so that way the officer
Well,
knows?
and we could do that, and of course, thinking ahead of what's the neighbor gonna say if they're seeing a car sitting on a trailer in the driveway and it's not covered or whatever. I mean, we're
So
gonna
do
get
you
some
want it
feedback.
covered? Is that, I mean,
Well, I don't know, that's something we're gonna have to work through, because like I said, that may be fine as far as having that vehicle parked on a trailer showing that they're in and out and doing whatever, but the neighbor next door may say, hey, I'm not crazy about them having a drag vehicle next to
Trailer's
mine.
registered, right? Is that not still?
What's that?
If the trailer's registered?
Yeah, the trailer would be
But
fine,
then-
it's the vehicle on there. And I think if it's sitting on the trailer, I think probably pretty safe on that.
then-
That would be my take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so if they're sitting on a trailer, I don't see that as being a problem. but-
Otherwise, they need a cover on them, cover them up.
That's where he's wanting definition.
Well, if they're covered up, there's no way I'm gonna know, other than the fact they're not moving. I won't be able to determine registration or anything.
But see, now that's the thing. Some of these cars, they hit the track every week
Right.
or weekend. But then when they come back, they look like they're sitting in the same
Right,
spot.
and how many would you say that is?
There's maybe
Really?
3 or 4
Three or
every
four,
time.
yeah.
That's it.
So I think we've got hired members that probably go to the other side where they
Oh, I
decide to
agree.
do anything with it.
I agree.
But I think we can do something out with those things.
Excellent. That's all I have.
I do have one other thing.
Yes.
Because I seen a note on social media about juveniles and fireworks. Do you have any advice for juveniles with fireworks, or?
Don't play with them. Out west, I've seen where kids lose their hands and fingers and whatever. Now, are they referring to fireworks or some of the things going on?
There was reports of loud bangs at midnight and.
Using dynamite.
You know, historically, I'm dating myself, but that happened in the 80s when I was here. And people were going around setting these off and whatever. It was a cycle. It happened a couple nights. So we're going to increase patrol. We've had county up.
Yeah, but we've had flat tires and vandals and
Sure, no,
bad
that's-
things, and
that's
the
a-
people.
yeah.
That's the type of situation. I don't know how you're going to address it. I don't want you to give away your strategy, but
Well, I can tell you this, I know that we've been getting some feedback about, well, nothing's done with juveniles and things like that, and it's very protected, you know, we can't go into details about juveniles and what happens to juveniles, but I know of a fact of one that received a pretty lengthy sentence in a juvenile facility for a number of years here recently. So I know that they are addressing some of these more serious issues, and I think that, you know, we're going to be diligent about making contact with them out there, especially if they're out, you know, past curfew. What are they doing out past curfew? Shouldn't be out there. We're going to be addressing that and then following up on any reports of that kind of thing. Also, one of the things, and it could go with vandalism and things with the kids, we're going to be doing follow-ups as far as I'm going to have the officers report to me any of the criminal reports as far as damage or any type of criminal activity that they've taken a report on, and we're going to do follow-up on that. We'll make contact with the people that call in and just kind of let them know either
We just don't have any suspects at this time, or we have got something in the works that it's presented to the state's attorney's office. So we'll be following up with that as well.
We usually, I know I try to encourage people to, we encourage them to call City Hall for non-emergent lines or whatever. Is that happening?
We do get calls, yes.
Okay, good. And you prefer that, I assume?
That's fine now.
I have one more thing. What's it take to get like a Crime Stoppers reward program? I know a lot of the other towns have it.
I've been talking to the county about that. In fact, I already have a call into the head of the Crime Stoppers in Clinton, waiting for a call back so we can participate in that. And they have some funds that I think they're looking to provide, which I think would be a good recipient of it for equipment or whatever. So I've already got a call in to do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Sir, thank you very much. We appreciate your service. Any non-agenda items or other business?
Yes.
Scott, you first. Well, go ahead. This Scott.
I've got three things. One's just an action item maybe. The property on Depot Road out past where the Ag Department is, you know what I'm talking about, 15 acres. Can we get a developer to put some houses there?
Well, I mean, we can certainly
I
try.
mean, we had talked about that sewer tile, or that tile that was going through there, needs fixed anyhow. I talked to one person about it, that could be put into an open ditch, and then we could put some houses there. That might be some development for the town.
Now, that is the only industrial area that we have, and that's why nothing's ever been done with it. That's the last of the industrial area that we have. So you have to decide, do you set it aside and keep it sitting there and take what little bit of income that you get as farmland, or do you go ahead and develop it for houses? That's, you just have to keep that in mind when you do that. That is truly the only industrial area we have. We don't have anything in the works.
Okay.
But that's the other side of Scott. So, but yeah, we can look at that.
Is that behind Emo's? Is that what you're talking
Oh,
about?
Depot Road.
Depot Road,
Okay.
it's not the Ag Department that's next to it, it's something else.
Maxwell County.
Maxwell Counters.
Next generation.
If we can't get something industrial out there, maybe we could make some new housing, because that was apartment housing, because that's, one of the people I talked to said, some apartments for nurses and for, college kids would be great.
Well, I think any multi-family,
Multi-family homes.
nice
There you go.
multi-family would go real well in
Right.
town. No matter where you live. No matter where you live. So.
The other thing was, I talked about having a cap on the hotel motel spending. If we're in agreement with that, can we write an ordinance to get that?
Yes.
We need a cap.
Per year.
A per year cap, per 365-day cap. My original suggestion was no more than $5,000 or 20% of the account's balance per 365-day individual. So if you came in to get money and there was $100 in it, you could take 20, but then you couldn't ask again for another 365 days.
That particular organization.
That organization couldn't ask.
20% or 5,000, whichever is lower or higher?
No, whichever is available. If there's 30,000 in it, you can ask for 5,000. If there's 1,000 in it, you can ask for 200.
What if there's
So you're
6,000 in
limiting
it?
anybody at
But I'm limiting the
20%.
maximum contribution to 5,000.
But 20% is what you would go by, is what you're suggesting.
20% up to $5,000.
Well, you want to take a pretty good balance to
Okay,
get
so what if it's
5,000.
$6,000?
I know,
So don't limit yourself. I'm just saying.
but I'm not going to ask for money that I know of yet.
Can we push for that on the next agenda?
The next one?
The idea was not to set it up so that no one organization can drain the account. And that it wouldn't be overtaxed in the event that it had a low balance. That was the intent.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. Like I say, just don't limit yourself, because there may be somebody you want to give $2,000 for, but right now, we couldn't do it. But if you had 10,000 in it, that would be your 20%.
I understand.
But if you needed 3 and you still wanted to do it, you couldn't do it because it's over.
Could you still give them more than 20%?
I think you can always say no.
That's not the way I would write it, because I'm a fiscal.
That's why I'm asking, low, is it whichever's lower or whichever's higher?
No, 20% of the account's balance up to $5,000. I'm a fiscal conservative, I'm not afraid to say no to Santa Claus.
We'll get the wording right.
Thank you, sir. And you had another one?
Yes, and this was like.
That just rolled off those lips
Oh,
like,
here it comes.
he's been watching television.
The burn ordinance, I'd like to modify the burn ordinance to Monday through Thursday and not on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
No, again.
You'd like what again?
I'll vote no now.
The burn ordinance,
Yeah,
we allow burning on the weekend
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
when most people are out with their families trying to have a good time.
You want to reverse it?
And I would like to reverse that to Monday through Thursday and not allow burning Friday, Saturday, or Sunday when the people are out with their children.
You're still gonna have burning, you're just gonna have campfires. And
Yeah,
yard burnings.
it would be campfires or
So you're gonna have burning 7 days a week.
barbecues. I'm talking leaves and twigs and sticks.
Do I have two councilmen who would like to see this resolution?
I think it's something that could be
For
discussed,
discussion.
but I'm not ready for it yet.
Well, I mean, if there's two that would like to see it discussed, then, I mean, you need to have the resolution to discuss. So if you're willing to discuss it,
I'm not a big fan of the burning. I don't burn at all. I haul all my stuff off.
so we have enough interest that the city council would like to discuss this, correct? So we'd like to revisit that ordinance then, and then once the ordinance comes before us, at that time, we would discuss it and then vote on it. So, I guess the proposal is you want to see it reversed Monday through Thursday, and then no burning Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we'd like to revisit that ordinance and then.
And the dry months would apply.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, anything that multiple members want to discuss needs to come before us.
Yeah, we'll discuss that when it comes time, because you bear in mind you got schools.
Yeah,
And,
sporting
but
events, and
anyway.
people work, and
Yeah.
so that we're gonna have an issue
So
with that.
We'll want to address that in ordinance form so that we can discuss that. So very good.
All right,
Next, I'm sorry.
I got quite a few things here, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I talked to Kevin Maxwell again today. They're still having issues with the power.
Yep.
It was suggested that they put a bigger line in. That was what was suggested. Spent the money on it. They still have the same low voltage going on. What's going on with that?
Well, I'm not a union lineman here, okay, so I'll do the best I can. There's not an issue with the transformer. IMEA came up, they ran studies, they made suggestions on how to, there's some type of an isolator, I'll call it, that you can put on some of the equipment down there, and that was suggested. I didn't know that they had put their different line in. I don't know when they did that. I know that an electrician down there was resistant to doing that. But I can tell you, and we can have it documented if need be, that there's not an issue with the transformer. The transformer
Because
is big enough.
he was being told that by one of our electricians that the transformer had some concerns, possibly some concerns.
Okay. I would look into that before I make any more comments.
That's perfectly fine. I'm going to move on. Terry Craddock, I've noticed they've been working up here with Yeagle. Has he gotten with you on any of that?
No, and I have no idea what he's doing. So
Okay,
I
I
just
didn't
working
know.
downstairs or upstairs. He always seems to be doing something.
Business district tax increase, how do those numbers look?
I brought that. If you look on the front of this, it's on here. There is a line item.
Yeah.
Year to date, there's 39,000 in there. We get somewhere around a little over 9,000 a month off of that. So
And that's what we initiated.
yes,
9,000 a month.
somewhere in that. Yes, that's the money that we receive from the state of Illinois. So
This is the
it,
monthly one.
yeah. Okay.
That's on the front of
And I thought that I had actually, but it is on the front here. You see it?
Yeah.
State use tax.
And where's that money going?
in that fund. General fund,
It's in the general fund.
correct.
That's where that additional tax money is going in the
Absolutely,
general
yes.
fund.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not being used, it's sitting there.
In its own account? Or-
Yes, to the best of my knowledge,
What's
yes.
the number on that account?
If you look down, 100-4348, you see it
Okay,
there?
that's what I thought. Just want to make sure I had the right one.
And that could be used
Well-
for what? Whatever.
That was infrastructure in the taxing district. So could it be used out there? I do believe so.
I've often wondered that. I'm glad you brought that up.
That number's, I'm pleased to hear that number. I thought that he was anticipating, what, 40,000 a year, and you're saying 9,000 a month?
That's
So
what
we're doing
she
twice,
is.
at least twice, right?
Well, year to date, it's at 40,
39,858.42.
so it's about right on, because it's February's.
Well, that wouldn't be 9,000 a month, that would be.
9,000.
What was the last month? Do you have that figure?
4,100.
I think I have a printout on my desk. I can get that for you.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay. But
very
that's good, yes.
Okay, a couple more and I'm going to leave you alone.
Okay.
Last meeting, we talked about the $1,190 charge for the council FOIA questions. Did we ever figure out what that was for?
We did, but it needs to be changed, it was wrong. It had nothing to do with FOIA questions.
Okay,
It was answered.
all right.
Is that the one you asked me?
That's when I
Okay.
asked you, it had to do with outlining stuff, and she labeled it wrong.
Okay. And then we talked, you brought up about a recycling plan. Is there any way to get DeWitt County involved? Because what's going to happen is what's happening in Mansfield. People from outside the taxing district are using it, and the taxpayers are paying for it.
And they want to be part of it, I don't think, I was approached by some, they're not opposed to helping with it. They
Well, I
don't know how to
understand.
do that.
Well, I think that there would be a lot of discussion with that, Scott, and I'm not against recycling, only except for, is every citizen in the community going to pay for it? And when I say that, you have a lot of fixed income people, elderly that might only have one plastic milk jug, and generally speaking, newsprint hasn't been taken for a while, but maybe now it is. But they would be very limited.
Sure.
And so, is it fair that they have to pay when, say, one of us in here, we have a lot of it? To me, if you want the service, then your garbage company should provide that service to you as an individual customer. I can tell you that right now, we don't have the funding, the city of Farmer City, to be doing such a program. And you don't want to start the program and then 6 months down the road, because you had some money available, that money runs out and then you have to pull the plug. That's worse than not starting the
Well,
program.
that's why I'm asking about getting the county involved, because you said it was about $900 a
900 a
month. You know, if the county was involved, because like I stated, you're gonna have people out south of town
Well,
using
when
the
we-
facility,
and-
but their
and-
tax dollars aren't paying for that.
That's
$900
correct.
a month.
When we do dumpster days, it comes in from out of town, and there's really not any way to control it. So now, for the money that you do that one-time cleanup, you could stop that program and start a recycling program. You could determine which one would be more beneficial. But preliminarily looking at the budget, we're having to make some cuts. And so I can just tell you, now, going to some of the DC meetings, the county doesn't have a lot of funds to be thrown around either. Santa Ana Township, they used to provide us some money and offset the cost of some of those dumpsters, and they've had to pull the plug because their funding's tight. I could reach out to Dee Dee down at the county and see if she even remotely believes that there's any.
Does Clinton, do you know if Clinton has one?
I don't honestly know.
On the cleanup days, are those dumpsters monitored, are they watched?
Guys are there. That's why it's done on a weekend, because we used to do it and no one was there, and it became a free-for-all, and we would buy 5 dumpsters,
Yeah.
and the 6th dumpster was scattered all about, and so we'd have to go get another dumpster and pick all that up. That's why we changed it and limited it the way we did. So
And maybe we could make them bring their utility bill or something to prove their residence. Just an idea, I mean, it's not.
Some towns have them register ahead of time and they're given a pass, and you have to have the pass. Champagne's about to have their electric one. I was looking
Yeah, I
for a
know.
friend to get rid of an old television.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, I
They
got
only allow like
The
one
best part, I'll
TV.
take it.
No, they won't.
Really?
They quit?
They quit.
I mean, I can imagine everybody's,
Cause I just bought a new TV and I got an old one sitting outside. It's been there for a month now. I
Do you have
can't,
any?
I
Can't give
just had
it
a couple
away.
questions for their quick one.
Yes.
The South Park restrooms, are the handrails done?
There was a price that came in of $6,000.
Uh-huh.
We don't have $6,000 to put a handrail up.
Okay,
No.
so what's our next step then? We're gonna,
Next step would be maybe in the new budget year, we'll have $6,000 that we can focus on that. But if we do, there'll be other things that won't be done. So,
but isn't that a big safety thing? Could it cost us
I don't
more
know
than 6,000
that,
later?
I don't know that necessarily is, Jessica, because of the fill that was put up around it. I don't know that it truly is. There does need to be a handrail. I was astonished, somebody would want $6,000.
Do you have another option of another person to check? Is that, I don't know.
We can, and that was a local vendor.
Okay.
the fill that's up around there, can that be got into grass seed this year?
Mhm.
And, okay.
What's the estimate on the roof on the North Pavilion or South Park?
We don't have one yet, Mayor.
All right.
We're hoping to get that within the next 2 days. So
You have a
For the
guesstimate?
clerks?
I don't know, 20
Okay.
or more.
Because I'm pretty sure Clark
There's a lot of repair that needs to be
Clark
done.
Foundation would really consider that as well
It's-
too.
it's-
6,000. They would. They're really awesome to the
Are
community.
you going
I
to the
think
Clark
it's
meeting with the roof one?
For the roof.
And that's Saturday, I believe that meeting's
Thursday, I
Saturday.
thought you said.
Thursday is what I was told.
But would the Clark Foundation?
No,
consider the
they're
regular
always
season?
Saturday mornings. I'm on that.
Well, you can do one at a time.
Oh,
So, pick your poison.
South Park.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would be worth
Maybe,
it.
Mayor, maybe it's my deadline for submittal.
It is, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure, yeah, it's on a Saturday.
Okay.
Double check that.
Oh, they just want the number by Thursday for
Could
their
be.
meeting.
The paperwork filled out, yes.
Did the rock get fixed out at ABM? That was scraped away and.
I was told that has been taken care of. More than once.
Now you said officially.
Okay.
Okay. I know it's late, I'm ready to go too. I still think we should get a couple of committees together. People have a lot of things to say, and if it's constructive, it can be said in small groups for, the aesthetic curbs appeals keeps coming up on signs coming into town, and I know we talked about the railroad helping that spot too. And I know we don't have a lot of funds, so, but if people can get and have a specific idea that they're working for, that's when, you've got Clark and you've got things that can work on the funds and spend it smarter. And then they can also see how time it takes, and invest time in it and labor. And so I would like to see us do that. I don't know how you create a subcommittee. I don't know if it's something we have to vote on. You have to have members first. If people just get as a group. I just mentioned a couple of people out in Prairie View are thinking about creating a TIF committee there, like of that subdivision, things that they would like to do, so that way it doesn't have to be, they don't individually have to come to you with suggestions to figure it out. They can work it out, come up with a group consensus, bring it here as a group.
I have a strong opinion on committees.
Well,
It's right here.
you want to do all the work?
They'll just have to accept what we can, well, it's not that we don't want them to.
No, but it helps. We don't have the time to run out and come up
We
with all the
got into a
information.
problem taking recommendations on tax dollars, and I don't want to ever go there.
It's not a recommendation. It's
Well, if
not-
they
it's
have
not
a
giving them-
committee and they bring it to us, it's a recommendation.
It's
they're gonna
a request.
So you're saying there's a legality to it is the problem?
I don't know that there's a legality.
Yeah, subcommittees.
I don't like committees.
I think he's just speaking from experience.
Experience,
I mean,
especially if we're not elected.
I like constructive input myself.
That's fine.
There is, I mean, obviously, we can set up committees. I think that
It's hard enough to get
It sounds
volunteers,
like-
though, I
It
realize.
sounds like you're kind of approaching this generally speaking. If there was something a little bit more specific, like I'd like to have a committee on, the subcommittee on.
Well, I'd like to have a strategic planning one as a whole, and that includes the I-74.
I think that's
the-
something we should.
You're talking about Depot Road. I think if we look 5 or 10 years ahead and people have a goal, just like you probably did 10 years ago, and you changed downtown stuff and you improved, curb appeal and stuff there, people want to see it elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Here's a goal.
I think something very
I'd like to
specific would be.
I'd like to see a marketing committee for Farmer City.
That would be part of a strategic plan.
To sell this off, sell this place to tourists and homeowners and whatnot.
But it cannot all happen on our schedule.
And I can't draw.
Yeah, you suck.
And let me,
Sometimes you can get too many ideas.
with that, you have
That's why it needs
DCDC
to not be right
that has been
here. Yeah.
reformed with some very talented people in the county. Give it an opportunity to work.
Okay.
Because they are working for the entire county, not just Clinton. So, there's a new mindset there.
Okay.
Lord, I think we hit the end.
No.
No?
No.
What do you got? Did you get an email?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I haven't slept in a day. I can go another
I was up
day.
till 1:30 last night, so.
What we got?
There is a letter from the chamber. I'd like to at least read this one. It's something that we do need to consider, especially in lieu of the hotel motel tax. It says, to the members of the Farmer City Council, as you know, the Farmer City Chamber of Commerce has proudly sponsored the Christmas parade for many years. Thousands of people in line up on Main Street from the fairgrounds to downtown to view the parade. The parade has grown to over 125 entries each year. With increased participation, there are increased expenses. Last year, the chamber, that's my alarm telling me to take my cholesterol medicine. The parade has grown to over 125 entries each year. With increased participation, there are increased expenses. Last year, the Chamber of Commerce issued checks to parade participants in the amount of nearly $4,000. Including in the list would be the high school marching band, 10 Lizzie's, Judy Frazier, Shriners Club, and the Ansar ATVs. We would like to request assistance from the city of Farmer City to defray the cost of the parade. The amount of the funding request is $1,000. We would be grateful for the amount available to help support the Christmas parade. We feel that the parade is a great way to get people to Farmer City for the afternoon. Thank you for consideration. Please advise me of your decision at your earliest convenience. Of course, there's no way we can make a decision at this time, but I would like.
Is this request is for 1,000?
It is a request for 1,000.
Well, what did we give them last year?
1,000 out of the hotel motel tax. So.
So we didn't figure it into our budget. this
I mean,
year.
we can figure it in the budget, but basically, I'd like to see this come before us, and then it would have to, I mean, if we're considering it, it would have to come from a different fund. So, but we are going to start seeing these this year. We're going to start seeing requests, and we're going to have to think about where they're going to come from. What's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
You can always do a resolution and have it when the funds become available.
Okay.
So,
Well-
you can take care of, you
But
can,
according to
There you
minutes,
go.
you have to have $5,000.
You have
in there.
to, well, you'd have to have $5,000 in there, and that would still be 6 months. That'd be 6 months from now, and of course that's in November. But I would like to see this come before us. So, is there any objections to
No.
this coming before us for discussion?
We've done it for
When that
many
comes up,
years.
you guys will have the opportunity to adjust the numbers.
that's right.
Anyway, again, I think it's a good idea. I'm not.
No, it's a good idea. We've done it in the past.
No, I mean what you brought up was a good idea. I'm just.
Yeah, adjust the numbers on capping.
And I do think this is a good idea, but then we've got to start talking about, how do you do this? So, is there any other items on agenda? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Call it.
Fitzroy?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Demars?
Amen.
Harden?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Motion carries.